and the Commission start at the same time. You're both women, and I think it's good. Once you're elected, you'll be able to work with us in this Parliament to complete economic and monetary union, which is exactly what we need. Two questions. At the last meeting, the European Central Bank in the Governing Council on the 25th of July talked about measures for stimulating the European economy. The members of the Governing Council of the ECB talked about a possible package of measures, such as reducing interest rates and asset purchases. In March in Portugal, you said that we needed to increase the rhythm of debt reduction. What you said is we need to fix the roof while the sun is shining. The countries of the Eurozone, particularly those with high levels of public debt, like Portugal, have benefited from advantageous conditions for refinancing their debt. Do you think that these countries are doing enough, or are they failing to take advantage of the favorable climate? A second question. Digitalization brings new challenges. Technologies like blockchain or cryptocurrencies and new kinds of payment services are key examples of this. Yves Mersch, who's a member of the Executive Committee of the European Central Bank, talked about the Libra, the cryptocurrency set up by a number of major technological companies, as a major threat. Now, could this reduce the control of the ECB over the euro as a reserve currency? What is the right balance between the stability of the system and the incentives for innovation in financial services? Thank you.
Obrigada. Yes. Fix the roof while the sun is shining. I borrowed that from John Fitzgerald Kennedy at the time. And it's something that many economists have picked up and many policymakers have used in various speeches. Unfortunately, in many countries, it only stayed in the speeches and not in the actual measures that were taken. So while there is still growth now, and we have actually lived through both, in most advanced economies, actually, an unprecedented period of growth, growth is now being threatened by external factors, and we have those tail risks that are of a serious nature, whether it's the threats to international trade, whether it's the Brexit development, whether it's the geopolitical risks that abound, not to mention the climate change risk that we mentioned, which is of a longer-term nature, but requires short-term measures. So fixing the roof is still something that applies. And for some countries, they have the fiscal space to do it. For others, they have the ability to actually re-engineer their fiscal policies in order to make it as growth-friendly and facilitate the structural reforms that are needed. On your second point, which I think really warrants a deep discussion, the issue of technological changes and the balance between cost and benefit of technological changes. I think as a general principle, central bank governors have to be very, very acutely aware of the development. They have to keep up to date constantly because changes are occurring on a daily basis. And they need to do that with in mind two things, in my view. Number one, financial stability and protection of consumers and investors for those who have this mission. And number two, with a view to also facilitate and allow innovation. Because central bank governors, just like any other policymakers, cannot just cover their eyes and assume that things are going to stay forever. They will not. And whether you travel to China and witness the cashless telephone payment system day long, night long, or whether you travel to California to see what the developments are, things are changing. And there are very innovative projects, including at the ECB. How many of you know of TIPS? That's what I feared. Because myself, I didn't know about TIPS. And TIPS yet is a system that was put in place by the ECB in November, which is not a thriving success yet, and though has the potential to allow for expedited, instant payment between financial institutions in the euro area. We'll see how it works, and we'll see whether banks are going to, take ownership of that. But protecting financial stability, facilitating innovation, being part of the game, asking the question as to whether central banks should themselves be the originators of digital currencies. I think those are open questions that have to be addressed and have to be resolved.